Hello and welcome to the Life of a Kung Fu Master, episode 5. So today's topic is a controversial one. It's about what does a black belt actually mean? To me, having a black belt is a bit like a degree. Okay, we go to, in Kung Fu, we call them first degrees, second degree. In the Japanese arts, the American arts, they're often called dans. To me, it means the same thing. But yeah, if you would go to university, well, you go to university for three to 4 years, get a degree. It's the same as martial arts. The minimal time normally to get a black belt is roughly 3 to 3.5 years. It can take anything up to 10 years. It could be 23 years, but that's another story. So yeah, so it's like a degree, but you've got to think every martial art is so different. Not every martial art, but so many different types of martial arts out there. You couldn't put somebody who's got a black belt in Aikido to somebody who's an experienced Muay Thai fighter in the same fight, if you like. It's obviously the Muay Thai fighter is going to win. Okay, Aikido is a good martial art to talk about really in this subject, is because it's a very controversial martial art. Okay? It's a traditional one. It's based on the sword and things like that, and the way they attack each other in the classes is not set for realism. As long as we're teaching with integrity. Okay, I mean, my main thing when I'm learning martial arts, I love all the traditional stuff. I love all the sports side of things, but I want my black belts to at least have some form of confidence if they ever have to use it in the street. But don't forget where I come from. That's the reason I got into martial arts. And I've done Kung Fu, I've done Taekwondo, I've done the sport kickboxing side of things, never done full contact. But it's a variety. But my main thing, one of my proudest black belts was when I got it with Jeff Thompson, the legend Jeff Thompson, who used to train in martial arts all the time. I'm not martial arts, but in the self-defense world, he was ranked one of the top 10 in the world at one point. And I love that side of things. And he himself, okay, I know you can make traditional martial arts work, but he himself was worked the doors to confront fear and things like that. And he soon realised that half the stuff that he learned doing his karate, I think he was a 5th or 6th dan at the time, didn't work. And the most thing that got him out of the trouble was the white cross. And that was his system, was to really get the white cross good. All the other stuff that he'd learned, what he would call a backup system, like the rest of your tools. A workman with his toolbox normally goes for the same favourite tool all the time. Everything else is for backup in case that doesn't work. And that's the essence of why I teach. I mean, I still teach traditional stuff. I still teach the sports side of things, but in each side we've got what we call realistic self-defense. Realistic self-defense side of things. Like for example, I would stand like this if I was in the middle of a fight. Would I'd sort of just have my fence out like this, just natural. You've got to adapt it. But again, this is why. This is what's important to me. I want my students to be able to be good at Kung Fu. If we were just teaching, I don't know, just Tai Chi for example, which doesn't have to do black belts, but sometimes you still get levels in it. I'm level 2, but it's equivalent of a black belt. Am I going to be able to defend myself doing all this sort of stuff? Okay, another controversial thing. I don't think Tai Chi is great for self-defense, and yet, sorry, Steve, if you're watching, this is just my opinion. I would never argue with my instructor because he knows a lot more than me. But in my experience, Tai Chi is fabulous for bringing in the principles and really becoming mindful and getting your martial arts better, whatever you're studying. Okay, but I certainly wouldn't defend myself with the moves like single whip, for example. But that's just my opinion and probably my knowledge or ignorance, if you like. But then kickboxing is kickboxing a martial art? Well, that's another controversial subject. But I don't understand how you get black belts in kickboxing. It's been developed. Okay, there's no real system in it, sort of thing. It's not traditional. Kickboxing varies from one art to the next. Most kickboxing clubs will have another system which they've trained in to teach once you get to black belt. There's only so many things you can do with your arms and the legs, punching and kicking and things like combinations. Okay, for example, our Kung Fu system, or a lot of Kung Fu systems, then will give their grades out on forms. Taekwondo is very pattern oriented, like similar to forms, and they get their belts on that. It doesn't necessarily mean that they can fight. Okay, and that's what the main thing is in this video. Getting a black belt does not mean you are a good fighter, guys. Okay, it depends what you want out of it. Okay, look at some styles of kung fu. We've got a lot of stuff in kung fu where we go down to the floor in dragon stance and things like that. I'm not going to do that in the street fight, am I? But they've all got different benefits, even if it's just learning to move your body. I mean, Wushu, going back to Wushu, if I've mentioned that or not, a lot of it is like doing cartwheels or bouncing on your head and things like that. Okay, great for movement, great for being fit and strong and things like that. Okay, yeah, and doing some of that qigong, which they do, where they're holding a spear and they're breaking the spear in their necks and things like that. Am I going to use that? I'm going to have a hard neck, but yeah. So having a black belt does not mean you can fight. That's basically I know a lot of styles, it's like conveyor belts, they have black belts. You got to be realistic with what you're teaching, guys, I'm afraid. So yeah, that's just my point on having a black belt. Okay, have integrity with what you teach, but be realistic with what you know. Have you ever been in a street fight? I mean, for example, point fighting, continuous fighting, which we do in a lot of sparring, definitely kickboxing side of things, is nothing like full contact. Okay, most people, unless they've been in a street fight and realize and known how they've handled it and things like that, do not know if they can fight. Okay, what am I supposed to do with all my students that are approaching? Send them out down the pub to start a fight like the old school ways? No. Okay, the biggest thing in martial arts to me, when you're teaching people to fight, is mindset and learning about the freeze, fight, and by the way, freeze, fight, or flight. That's the one. Yes, flight. Oh dear, I'll get there in the end. Learning about that side of things. Okay, because that's what stops people in their tracks. Definitely the freeze one, freezing. Okay, and you've got to experience that. Okay, if you want a martial art which you just want to develop fighters, you have to really pressure test things. You're going to have a smaller club. Okay, my intention is to make people enjoy martial arts. Okay, get the benefits from martial arts. As I've said, our black belts last a week because I want people to develop themselves and really step out of their comfort zone. That's important to me. Okay, but I'm not kidding. I'm not being unrealistic. My black belts, I send out downtown to have a fight. Okay, they might get beaten up. Definitely got more than one opponent. Okay, because most of them haven't experienced it. It's tough, our black belts, but it still doesn't represent a real street fight. Okay, so you just be honest with what you're teaching, guys. Enjoy martial arts for what it is. If you're one of them people that comments on people's posts about that wouldn't work in a street fight, that wouldn't work in the UFC cage, get a grip. Okay, just let people enjoy it for what it is. And that's another thing I'm getting on my bonnet now. When you put stuff out for self-defense and people comment that wouldn't work on the mat in the cage, it's a different fucking thing. Cage fighting or UFC fighting is still not self-defense. I'm afraid, guys. Don't get me wrong. Okay, somebody who's been used to being in the cage and they're fit and strong, yes, I would put them okay to handle himself in the street, but it's still different. The techniques are still different. Okay, you've got to remember that. Okay, you're bouncing around street. A proper confrontation on the street doesn't often start with somebody bouncing around. Okay, it can be out the blue. Somebody just hits you and things like that. Obviously, somebody who's trained in UFC or MMA is going to get used to being punched, and that's the biggest thing for it. Boxing is great. Boxing is great until you get taken down to the floor, but they can still punch hard, and they've got great footwork as well. So it depends what you're learning. Okay, so just get over it a little bit, guys. Black belt's a black belt. Okay, a black belt could be an amazing martial artist, but rubbish in a street fight. Okay, so be honest with what you're teaching. That's the main essence. Anyway, remember, the mind is your worst enemy, but your best friend. If it's not doing you good, stop the fucking shut up, basically. Okay, I will get my theme at the end right eventually. I'll have to write it down. I keep saying that. Anyway, thank you for listening, guys. And if you've got anything to comment, please comment. If you like what I'm talking about, or if it touches you, please subscribe, but only if you're going to listen to my videos, things like that, because I want to create a good community, people with open-mindedness and not so up themselves. See you soon. Bye.